So I believe we are live. So welcome everyone to another Vasari Vihara Sutta study. I'm just going to adjust the camera one more time because it's off center. Okay. Still not quite right, but anyway. So I'm going to be speaking about a sutta. I think it's pretty well known. It's the first sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya to Rahula. The first there's two. There's a pair of teachings, and it's sometimes translated as advice to Rahula at Mango Stone. And I'm sorry. And so Rahula was the Lord Buddha's son. And in commentaries, it said that he was 7 at this time. And apparently he was dwelling at another location than the Buddha, because the Buddha walked to where he was. The Venerable Sariputta was assigned to be Venerable Rahula's tutor. He was a novice at this time. The bhikkhus do not ordain the bhikkhu ordination isn't until someone is 20 years old up to this time. But according to the Vinaya rules, the monastic rules of discipline, you have to be 20. But they could take novices at an earlier age. And in a number of countries, Thailand and Sri Lanka, they do this. Families bring their young sons to a monastery, and they get ordained as novices. And a lot of families, that's the tradition to like the firstborn or the lastborn son or whatever they decide is sent to a monastery. And I've spoken to a few bhikkhus who had that experience, and they're still in robes. So Rahula was the first novice, and this is a conversation with the Lord Buddha and his son. I'm going to share a document I put together, and we're going to go to Ajahn Tanisaro's translation. So he says the exhortation to Rahula at Mango Stone, this Ambalaṭṭhikā Rahula Wada. So Amba is a mango, and I've also seen it translated as young mango. So whether it's the pit of the of the location was named after a young mango or the stone of a mango, I don't know. Doesn't matter so much. So this is Majjhima Nikaya number 61. I have heard on one occasion the Blessed One was staying at Ragajaha in the bamboo forest and the squirrel's sanctuary. At that time, Venerable Rahula was staying at Mango Stone. Then the Blessed One, emerging from his seclusion in the evening, went to the Venerable Rahula. This is where the Venerable Rahula was staying at Mango Stone. Venerable Rahula saw him coming from afar, seeing him set out a seat and water for washing the feet. The Blessed One sat down on the seat, set out, and having sat down, washed his feet. Venerable Rahula, bowing down to the Blessed One, sat on one side. Then the Blessed One, having left a little bit of water remaining in the water dipper, said to Venerable Rahula, Rahula, do you see this little bit of remaining water left in the water dipper? Yes, sir. That's how little of a contemplative there is in anyone who feels no shame at telling a deliberate lie. Having tossed away the little bit of remaining water, the Blessed One said to Venerable Rahula, Rahula, do you see how this little bit of remaining water is tossed away? Yes, sir. Rahula, whatever there is of a contemplative in anyone who feels no shame at telling a deliberate lie is tossed away just like that. Having turned the water dipper upside down, the Blessed One said to Venerable Rahula, Rahula, do you see how little water dipper, this water dipper is turned upside down? Yes, sir. Rahula, whatever there is of a contemplative in anyone who feels no shame at telling a deliberate lie is turned upside down just like that. Having turned the water dipper right side up, the Blessed One said to Venerable Rahula, Rahula, do you see how empty and hollow this water dipper is? Yes, sir. Rahula, whatever there is of a contemplative in anyone who feels no shame at telling a deliberate lie is empty and hollow, just like that. So this is pretty dramatic, and this is repetitiveness is a way of really making a point. In the monastic discipline, if a novice is caught lying, then they lose their status. They're no longer a novice, and it may be that this is it's such a strict holding of that discipline because the character of somebody is developing when one is young. So to really enforce the idea that telling a lie is a serious offense is one way to help someone not get into that habit or character. So then he further talks to Rahula. Rahula, it's like a royal elephant, immense, pedigreed, accustomed to battle, its tusks like chariot poles. Having gone into battle, it uses its 4 feet and hind feet, its forequarters and hindquarters, its head, ears, tusk, and tail, but will simply hold back its trunk. The elephant trainer notices that and thinks this royal elephant is not giving up his life to the king. But when the royal elephant, having gone into battle, uses its 4 feet, hind feet, forequarters, hindquarters, its head, ears, tusk, and tail, and trunk, the trainer notices that and thinks this royal elephant has given up its life to the king. There is nothing it will not do. In the same way, Rahula, When anyone feels no shame in telling a deliberate lie, there is no evil, I tell you, he will not do. Thus, Rahula, you should train yourself. I will not tell a deliberate lie, even in jest. So that's really quite strong. And so if somebody is willing to lie, then it's possible that they will break any of the precepts and try to cover it up by deceiving. So this is quite a strong message. And also, I was thinking about this as when a person is in a habit of lying, they're also lying to themselves. It gets really confused in their mind. They want to convince themselves otherwise than what actually happened, or like distorting the truth, and the truth gets distorted in their own mind. So we're actually being dishonest to ourselves and really creating delusion for ourselves. So this is the importance of that, to be truthful as much as we can. And then when we realize we've misspoken, even if it was a mistake, if I said that happened Monday and it was actually Tuesday, to clarify, to say, oh, I made a mistake, that instead of trying to cover up that I had spoken mistakenly, even like I want to just always appear like I know what's going on, and I, this I have the facts or something like that, and try to distort the truth that way too, even if it seems innocent. It's not. We're fooling ourselves. So then the Lord Buddha continues. What do you think, Rahula? What do you think, Rahula? What is a mirror for? For reflection, sir. In the same way, Rahula, bodily actions, verbal actions, and mental actions are to be done with repeated reflection. Whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do a bodily action, you should reflect on it. This bodily action I want to do, would it lead to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both? Would it be an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection you know that it would lead to self-affliction, to affliction of others, or to both, it would be an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results. Then any bodily action of that sort is absolutely unfit for you to do. But if on reflection you know that it would not cause affliction, it would be a skillful bodily action with pleasant consequences, pleasant results, then any bodily action of that sort is fit for you to do. So he's speaking to a 7-year-old here, or a young. It's the what in the suttas it says young Rahula. So, but in the commentaries it says he's 7. But in any case, he's young. He's not. He's under 20. And how many of us really reflect before we do something, while we're doing it? This is while you're doing an action, bodily action, you should reflect on it. This bodily action of, am I doing? Is it leading to self-affliction? to the affliction of others, or to both? Is it unskillful? Is it an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection you know it is leading to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or both, you should give it up. But if on reflection you know that it is not, you may continue with it. So this is interesting because it seems like we just really go on automatic pilot a lot of the times and do things. And I guess I've encountered this myself with, for me, I've been trying to cut down on caffeine. So I'm going to the cabinet, I'm reaching for the tea box, and I have the black tea in my hands. Yannicka seen me do this. And then I'm looking at the tea box, and then I'm thinking, is this the right thing for me to do? And she might even say, because it's later in the day, or like, are you going to be able to sleep? It's like, so pausing, like, and then I'll get some herbal tea instead or something like that. But I mean, this is kind of an example. It's relatively innocent, but if you're dealing with some kind of addiction, you see yourself habitually grabbing what's maybe harmful for yourself. Some of our actions happen quite quickly, but if we can see in ourselves these opportunities just to reflect, oh, is this really what I should be doing right now? Should I be picking up my cell phone or my device and just, twiddling away my time, going down different rabbit holes, that's an expression I've been hearing. But anyway, just, going from one site to another site to another site, or just distracting myself. So while we're doing it, we can also reflect some things. And then having done a bodily action, you should reflect on it. This bodily action I have done, did it lead to affliction, to the affliction of others, or both? Was it an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection you should know that it led to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or both, it was an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results, then you should confess it, reveal it, lay it open to the teacher or to an observant companion in the holy life. Having confessed it, you should exercise restraint in the future. But if on reflection you know that it did not lead to affliction, it was skillful, a skillful bodily action with pleasant consequences, pleasant results, then you should stay mentally refreshed and joyful, training day and night in skillful qualities. So that's beautiful. So we're not only reflecting on our what's maybe harmful, and this is particularly with if we're breaking any of the precepts. But here it seems like the Buddha is helping Rahula just to understand for himself what kind of behaviors he should engage in and or not, based on whether it causes harm or not. And the 5 precepts are geared towards non-harming, to restrain from those behaviors that are indicated in the 5 precepts, refraining from killing, lying, sexual misconduct, stealing, and intoxicants. So there's verbal action, whatever verbal action, this is our speech. You should reflect on it. This verbal action I want to do, would it lead to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both? Would it be an unskillful verbal action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection you know that it would lead to self-affliction, the affliction of others, or to both, it would be an unskillful verbal action with painful consequences, painful results. Then any verbal action of that sort is absolutely unfit for you to do. But if on reflection you know that it would not cause affliction, it would be a skillful verbal action with pleasant consequences, pleasant results, then any verbal action of that sort is fit for you to do. So do you have you had the experience of thinking about saying something to somebody
We have that phrase, bite your tongue.
by your tongue?
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking with another bhikkhuni yesterday, and she was saying that at the end of the day, you can look and say, I didn't say that, I didn't say that, I didn't say that, I didn't say that. And some of it is not about, majority, talking to a bhikkhuni, not about lying, but about just even was it necessary to say something?
So useless speech.
Useless speech.
So what
we
is
can
the harm in chit chat? Can I just chit chat?
sometimes chit chat is just simply saying I love you and can be a wholesome act. And if we're on a track for wanting our meditation to be quiet and still, then it may not have the impact we want it to have.
Right. So this useless speech. Well, sometimes people do. We've had people come here and they just want to fill time with talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been better if we were sitting silently even, it's like, but there's this kind of nervous chit chat that goes on or yeah, and then sometimes it degrades into criticism of others. Often there's a path of least resistance into critical speaking.
And we're on the verbal section now.
Yes, a verbal.
So I have an anecdote from my brother his son, I think his son might have been a little bit younger. And, oh, on screen, sure. His son might have been a little bit younger than Rahula here. And his son was relaying to the mom, oh, we looked out that window and we saw deer earlier in the yard. And my brother says, buddy, is that true? And he says, yeah. He says, are you sure it's true? Was it that window? And the son said, oh, no, it was that window. And he points at a different window. And the mom's like, why? What's the difference? He says, I want to really make sure that he learns about telling the truth and that it matters. And I just thought my brother relayed that to me. I thought that's just brilliant to just gently move a young child in the direction of examine the details.
That's a good example because, like I was saying, if I said Monday and it was actually Tuesday that happened and I
Not a big
corrected.
deal, but
Yeah,
correct it.
yeah, but just to have really clarity in our minds of that, even if it seems insignificant.
My brother and I were having a conversation about integrity, and that was an example he was giving.
Well, thank you for that. So then the same pattern is that before you speak, and then while you're speaking, you should reflect on it. This verbal action I am doing, is it leading to affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both? Is it an unskillful verbal action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection, you know it is leading to self-affliction, affliction of others, or both, you should give it up. But if you, on reflection, you know that it is not, then you may continue with it. And so this is it's useless speech or speech that's inaccurate. We can, while we're speaking, we could say, oh, excuse me, uh, that wasn't exactly true, or maybe we should stop talking about this. It's just, it's getting into gossip or something. We can self-correct as we're going along. And then having done a verbal action, you should reflect on it. This verbal action I have done, did it lead to affliction of others, or both? Was it an unskillful verbal action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection you know that it led to self-affliction, to affliction of others, or to both, it was an unskillful verbal action with painful consequences, painful results, then you should confess it, reveal it, lay it open to the teacher or to an observant companion in the holy life. Having confessed it, you should exercise restraint in the future. But if on reflection you know that it did not lead to affliction, it was a skillful verbal action with pleasant consequences, pleasant results, then you should stay mentally refreshed and joyful, training day and night in skillful qualities. And this one is mental action. So this is our thinking, how we are thinking. Whenever you want to do a mental action, you should reflect on it. This mental action I want to do, would it lead to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or both, to both? Would it be an unskillful mental action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection you know that it would lead to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both, it would be an unskillful mental action with painful consequences, painful results, then any mental action of that sort is absolutely unfit for you to do. But if on reflection you know that it would not cause affliction, it would be a skillful mental action with pleasant consequences, pleasant results, that any mental action of this sort is fit for you to do. So this is our thinking. And I've had the experience where I see somebody in my field of vision, and then I start seeing critical thoughts coming up in my mind. And then I think, should I continue with this? Is this helpful to me? Is it helpful to the other person? Is it just going to make me grumpy? And uh, so it actually is helpful if I start, because then I'm thinking about something else rather than continuing like the inner critical voice. If I start thinking, is this really helpful for me to be thinking about this at this time? Or if I'm starting to get distracted thinking I'm doing something, and then I start thinking about something else, I'm distracting myself from what I'm doing. So while, it's like the thinking process has already started, like the wheels are already starting to turn, but I don't have to keep going in that direction. And then having done it, okay, so while you're doing it and having done it, so we look back at, I've gotten into this really a nasty mental state. Having done a mental action, you should reflect on it. This mental action I've done, did it lead to to self-affliction? So if I got into a nasty mental state, then yes. Oh, okay. Or I spoke out and because I was grouchy to somebody else, or I gave them a dirty look or something like that. So it was like, oh, harmful to them in some way. Was it an unskillful mental action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection you know that it led to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both, it was an unskillful mental action with painful consequences, painful results, then you should feel distressed, ashamed, and disgusted with it. I think this would be really if you're having thoughts of ill will or cruelty or greed or something like that. Feeling distressed, you should exercise restraint in the future so you can actually feel the ickiness of the result of having felt really angry or really overcome with greed or something, and that feeling that you have from that. These are pretty strong words. Ashamed, disgusted with it, feeling distressed. I think this is to if you aren't just even just feeling how it's impacting your body and mind, you can maybe feeling somewhat ashamed, but I don't think it means that you should beat yourself up mentally, but just that this is not the right thing to do, that kind of Hiriotapa. But if on reflection you know that it did not lead to affliction, it was a skillful mental action with pleasant consequences, pleasant results, then you should stay mentally refreshed and joyful, training day and night in skillful qualities. So then the Buddha talks about how all the Brahmins and contemplatives in the past purified their bodily actions, verbal actions, mental actions, and did it through repeated reflection on their bodily, verbal, and mental actions. And just this way. And in the future, and all the Brahmins and contemplatives and anyone purifying their bodily, verbal, and mental actions do it through this repeated reflection. And that's why he's saying, thus you should train yourself. I will purify my bodily actions through repeated reflection. I will purify my verbal actions through repeated reflection. I will purify my mental actions through repeated reflection. That is how you should train yourself. That is what the Blessed One said. Gratified, Venerable Rahula delighted in the Blessed One's words. Sadhu, 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 sadhu. So we will go now. That was Ajahn Thanissaro's translation. And I have some extracts from Bhante Sujato's translation. Do you have the clock? Can you reach that?
The clock part's missing. To your left, is it to your right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what time it is.
It is 8:37.
8:37. Okay. So I'm just jumping to the part where the Buddha is asking, this is Bhante Sujato's very ellipsed and extracted. He's asking, what is the purpose of a mirror? And it's one translation is it's for reflection. And Bhante Sujata said it's for checking your reflections, sir. And there's this word, pachawekanato, for the purpose of looking at oneself, for reflecting. And so in the same way, deeds of body, speech, and mind should be done only after repeated checking or reflection. So I don't know, most people in this society just want to go quickly. This is very much valued to how speedy you are. And I think a lot of people make mistakes in body, speech, and mentally because everybody's in such a hurry. And so very few people, I think mine has to be really quick to check, to put on the brakes if we think we're going to do something that's harmful to others. So there's this word, Pachawekitwa. That's also another form of that word, having. I guess that's past participle. Having reviewed, having contemplated, having reflected, having inspected oneself. And then this is here, this is the kama. What kayena is of the body, kaya is the body, kamam, katabam. And this is so they have this word pachawekitwa, repeated. So let's repeatedly. And then wachaya is a verbal action, kama, having done, and it's manasa is the mind, mental action. Oh, this is should be done, excuse me, should be done. This should be done. The pachawekitwa.
That would be Pachawekitaba would be should, I think.
That's kataba. Kataba.
That would be the shoulds.
Yeah, that's it. Kataba. That should be done. That should be done. And then, so this is just Bhante Sujata's translation of this. Through body, speech, and mind, we should check that same deed. And does this act lead to hurting myself or hurting others? It's just translated differently. So I'm just going to roll down for the sake of time because I have another extract, which is interesting because this is Dvedhāvitakka Sutta. This is two kinds of thought. And this is the Buddha prior to his full awakening and what he was actually doing when he was really intent on liberation and he was meditating. So abiding is indicating that he's meditating. As I abided, thus diligent, ardent, and resolute. And then it was a thought of sense desire, a thought of ill will arose, a thought of cruelty arose in him. So he had divided his thinking into two types, one that's skillful and unskillful. So he's seeing in himself. I mean, this is like the Bodhisattva still had these unwholesome thoughts arising in his mind. So this gives us hope when we think we're hopeless because
Even
the Buddha had these afflictive thoughts coming up in his mind. How could he be having thoughts of cruelty or ill will? It's like, but he did. He's saying he did. And then a thought of cruelty arose in me I understood this thought of cruelty has arisen in me. So he recognized in him that this was a cruel thought. This leads to my own affliction, to the affliction of, to others' affliction, and to the affliction of both. It obstructs wisdom, causes difficulties, and leads away from nibbana. When I considered thus, it subsided in me. I think this is Bhante Bodhi's translation. Whenever a thought of cruelty arose in me, I abandoned it, removed it, did away with it. And this is Bhante Sujato's translation. So when I reflected that it leads to hurting myself, it went away. So there's this word, patisanchikato, reflecting, considering, discerning. So this is very similar to the other word we had here. It's just a different, instead of the Pachawekana. And this is in our, Pachawekana appears in our chanting. It's a reflection. And so here he's also saying reflecting. It's just it's a similar meaning. Reflecting, considering, discerning, and then so the having reflected on it in that manner, the particular manner, seeing the harm in it, seeing how it obstructs wisdom, seeing how it's leading away from nibbana, then it went away. It says there's this patisan sanchikato abatang gachati. Gachati is like going, like gachami is I go to refuge. But this is going away. This is disappearing. Gachati goes, walks, moves, wanders around, travels. So it disappeared when he considered the harm it was to himself or potentially to others. Then he says, bhikkhus, whatever a bhikkhu or anyone frequently thinks about and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of sensual desire, he has abandoned the thought of renunciation to cultivate the thought of sensual desire. And then his mind inclines to thoughts of sensual desire. This is an unwholesome reflecting, right? If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of ill will, upon thoughts of cruelty, he has abandoned the thought of non-cruelty to cultivate the thought of cruelty. And then their mind inclines towards thoughts of cruelty. And then if you're having these kind of thoughts, then the speech and action will reflect that as well. So too, I saw in unwholesome states danger, degradation, and defilement, and in wholesome states, the blessing of renunciation, the aspect of cleansing. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent, and resolute, a thought of renunciation arose in me. I understood thus. This thought of renunciation has arisen in me. This does not lead to my own affliction or to others' affliction or to the affliction of both. It aids wisdom. It does not cause difficulties and leads to nibbana. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent, and resolute, a thought of non-ill will arose in me. A thought of non-cruelty arose in me. I understood thus, this thought of non-cruelty has arisen in me. This does not lead to my own affliction or to the affliction of others or to the affliction of both. It aids in wisdom, does not cause difficulty, and leads to nibbana. So this is another way of contemplating or reflecting. And you can see for what he was teaching Rahula, it's really a similar thing, just considering whether this was harmful to yourself or to others or to both. And if it's so, don't do it. So he was cleansing his mind of unwholesome mental states by this reflection. And if whatever we think and ponder upon becomes the inclination of our mind, and then it becomes out in speech and action. So renunciation is in this is the opposite of sensual desire. So renouncing the obsession of sense desire. And non-ill will, sometimes people translate it as metta, or loving kindness or kindness, and non-cruelty as compassion. So do you have anything to add to this? But it just struck me that the way the Buddha was reflecting before his awakening, and this actually aided him into entering into more exalted states of the jhanas and higher attainments and to full awakening by doing this process of purifying the mind. And here's a third sutta extract, the simile of the conch blower. And here's this patisanchikati. This is another form of that word we saw before. And then they reflect. So then this is after one has done some harmful behaviors, and somebody has taken refuge in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and they reflect on their behaviors. The person who's taken refuge reflects. The Blessed One, in a variety of ways, criticizes and censures killing, stealing, indulging in illicit sex, the telling of lies, and says, abstain from the telling of lies. And there are lies that I have told to a greater or lesser extent, and they reflect on their behavior if they'd done, harmful sexual activity, or stealing, or had killed in the past. So they're reflecting on what they've done. There are lies that I have told to a greater or lesser extent. That was not right. That was not good. But if I become remorseful for that reason, that evil deed of mine will not be undone. You can't undo what you did in the past. So reflecting thus, he abandons right then and there the telling of lies, and in the future refrains from telling lies. That is how there comes to be the abandoning of that evil deed. This is how there comes to be a transcending of that evil deed. So this is reflecting when we've done some kind of harm, or we've broken any precept. And I mean, like, I can think of it in the past, some of my behavior before I was a bhikkhuni, before I went into monastic life, before I really took the 5 precepts seriously as a layperson. And but it's like I can see the harm it did, and I do feel can feel badly about it, or that feeling of remorse does come up, but like really dwelling in it or obsessing in the remorse isn't going to change what happened in the past. I can't undo my history, right? So then, but then I make a resolve. I commit myself to the 5 precepts. I make a resolve not to do that behavior again. And that's how the Buddha is describing transcending that behavior. There's still karma from it, but I think it weakens the karma.
It weakens the impact of the karma because there's a lot more good karma in the pool.
That's the simile of the salt.
Yeah.
If you have a glass of water and you pour a teaspoon of salt in that glass of water, and then you taste it, it's going to be salty. So that's a bad karma going into your karmic stream. But if you have like a river and you pour salt in it, it's not going to change the taste of the water because it's the good karma is a
good river. Have a river full of good karma rather than just a small cup full of good karma.
So I think at this time we can stop. I had a couple other, but I think I just wanted to focus on that idea of reflecting before, during, and after. And then the Buddha speaking about he's reflecting during this is kind of this one is during when it's arising, and he's cutting it off by reflecting, oh, this thought that has come up. It can cause either it's harmful or beneficial. And so he abandons the unwholesome, and he didn't see any harm in the wholesome thoughts that came up, but he said that if he just pondered them endlessly throughout the day and like he became weary, so he allowed his mind just to still, and he entered the jhanas, and then he was able to attain full awakening. So we can, I guess I'll end the screen share here, unless somebody wanted to particularly look at something. Okay, so we can open it up for questions. Do you mind if I put it on gallery? I'll put it on gallery view. I guess only one camera's on, but I'll just put it on gallery. So does anyone have any questions or comments?
I feel like it's hard enough to catch something after you've done it. And I know that's just the training, training to stop yourself to think before you do something, but we're so, the habit patterns of just kind of plowing ahead and consequences come later.
Yeah. So that we can start there when at least we see the consequences, and then we can try to make amends to ourselves and to the anyone else we've impacted by our behavior. And then I think the more we do that, then we might be catching ourselves sooner. It is a mindfulness practice. It's a certain type of mindfulness.
Yeah.
That self-awareness. And I think the more we also try to keep silent, because I think for me the what comes out in my mouth is often what's the unskillful. But if I'm catching the unskillful thinking, and then cutting that, if I can catch that, then the unskillful speech and actions. But it can be just little congratulating myself for some little thing, like I grabbing the black tea box when it's later in the day and I've already had my quota of tea, and going, okay, I could do something differently, or do I really need this? Do I really need this chocolate? Do I really, you know, uh, just trying to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, and I know I've always, it's not lying per se, but right speech, it's like we were talking about at the beginning, like not just talking for the sake of talking. And I've started catching myself at work being like, do I need to tell that story? Is there any point to me? Is there any point to what the thing that I thought I needed to say? And I'm catching myself more and more just being like, you know what? Like, it's not necessary to the work. It's not necessary to, it, and maybe it's that part where, it is relationship building, but is it really like going to be helpful here? And so I've caught myself a couple times, and right speech is hard for me. Not, like I said, not necessarily the lying part, but just the, talking to talk. Like,
Right.
so.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do we do that skillfully? How do we, because a lot of people, if you're just silent, they think you're in a bad mood or you hate them or something like that. A lot of people take it personally, if you're not talking. And like in a monastery, this is normal behavior, to be quiet. Or we should be. And we're not always, but yeah, but so at work, in a workplace, and the Buddha in the suttas, there's this cordial, amiable talk. They say after the amiable talk is done, and then they talk about the Dhamma. So it's not harmful to say, "Oh, how are you doing?" or something. But yeah, and then I guess you're guarding yourself about some anecdotal kind of just irrelevant kind of.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think it's, it probably comes back to wanting to be liked, wanting to,
Mhm.
not necessarily like, it's not like I'm cementing relationships, but you want to be liked by your coworkers so that, that makes things easier usually if everyone's kind of doing okay with each other. But yeah, like not, I mean, I feel like the relationships are okay. So there isn't, some of those things don't necessarily need to be said. So yeah.
Yeah, it depends on your environment and uh the social environment. Do you have any suggestions for that too? Oh, it looks like Susan has
Yeah.
so
Go ahead.
go ahead, Susan.
Oh, no, go ahead, please.
It's pretty simple. It's sometimes it's possible to turn the conversation towards what kind of conversations do we want to have? And that's really the kind of relationships we want to build. And so if it feels like I couldn't talk to this person about the quality of our conversation, then that can give yourself permission to slow down and quiet down anyway, because it's not a relationship that you really feel like you want to invest in building. And realize that you can be discerning with those whom you're really going to spend your time with.
Kama,
Thank you.
do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, thank you for this talk, Ayaz. And I really feel this is so this is so helpful. Thank you. And it's just and I've gone over this before, but every time these suttas, it's so important to go over and over and to repattern this mind. And so thank you so much. And it doesn't just change right away. It takes a lot of repetition, I think, for most of us. And it just keeps getting drop by drop. It starts affecting me, and I'm so grateful. And I see how much this is so related to mindfulness in every moment. And I do that practice, mindfulness in my own body, the practices, but to take it in this context is I do that already. I reflect a lot on my interactions, and this is really validating. Oh, yes, you should do that. You should reflect, and you should be investigating how things are. Is it wholesome or unwholesome, skillful or unskillful? And to measure, have that measuring stick always, which I'm so grateful the Buddhism has helped me have a measuring stick, how to measure what is right and wrong. And I didn't have that before. It was just randomly plowing through life by societal's whatever. It's like not really thought about what's helping me decide. But now I do use the Dhamma to decide, to run my life, to uh, have those. I know that's the way. I know that's the way I want to live, and that I use those tools, those skills, these teachings to uh, have that view, have those values that are so important. So I just keep learning how to deepen and how to cultivate, and that's what has to happen. It has to be a practice. It can't just flip instantly. I have to put in the causes and conditions and do the work. And anyway, this really inspired me that this is I am doing the practice when I am like I had an encounter with my mother recently. I helped her. I'll just be quick, and I helped her with a medical procedure, and I feel that was useful that I did that for her, and I can feel benefit by that action. I feel the wholesomeness in that, helping my mother and my intention. And then, but the interaction with her was, it was I'm reflecting a lot on it and seeing what to do with it because of the person is lying to I would call it lying to me or saying things that are inappropriate to me, what to do with that. And I may have less contact, like I was saying, like how deep can I go with this person which I think is part of my reflection and discernment, or how much is enough? How much obligated am I? So these teachings can help me with that, I think, and I am seeing there's something not something I need for myself to and actually, like you're saying, Buddha, by doing this practice, he actually became awakened. So being around people who say things about others, aren't practicing at all, is that actually could affect my meditation, could affect my peace, my path, and how helpful is that in the context of the universe, for me to be sucked down in a way into hell with
Yeah.
someone else's trash, So anyway, I don't know. I'm just being dramatic to make a point, but uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I
thank
understand.
you. So
Yeah.
very helpful. This will be very useful for what I'm.
Is that right that I make a comment on some?
Yes, please. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, there are some karmic relationships or comic relationships that we have, like our parents. So sometimes if we see that if we can talk honestly with them, um, it may be somehow to steer it, like, um, towards more truthfulness or towards more, kindness. There may be ways of doing that, or having compassion for them and that they're lost in this. These are these ingrained habits, they've had for so many years of their life. But also, yeah, having boundaries too. So, yeah, so you have this comic relationship and caring for your mother and doing what you can, but you might, you're both adults now. And so you may find ways to kindly put some limits uh, on the relationship. That would take a lot of skill. It might be difficult to do, but I mean, that's just like a seed of an idea that it may come up spontaneously for you, where you'll see an opportunity to help heal that with her. Because I do believe there we do have some relationships we can just like turn away from and not want to deal with, but there are some relationships where there's work that we need to do, both on both sides. Is that making sense to you?
Yes, thank you. I think it definitely can help me develop more compassion, and I felt that too, the boundaries. It's my boundaries.
Mhm.
It's not to see how to, yeah, I see how yes, the boundaries, my boundaries. It's not her fault. Uh, and uh, and I see how I could have redirected. And I did know it in the moment, but I was feeling over responsible for her, and I didn't catch that, and I'm not really. So I'm not really responsible for her choices, and anyway, it was a good reminder for me to to really have good boundaries. And like I could have said, "Oh, where is your knitting?" and given her something to do, and then removed myself, and that was what I could have easily done, that to just not get engaged with her.
See, so you're
Uh,
coming up with solutions already. So
yeah,
the
thank
next
you.
time, the
Next
next
time.
time yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because
exactly. Yeah,
so
and
we're over
thank you.
time now. So we can go off YouTube now if uh
Are we gonna araham or no?
we could arahang and yeah, close and then have a little time afterwards if people want to stay on a little bit longer.
Arahang's become a verb.
We can pay respects to the Buddha.
Yes.
Arahang is talking about the Buddha as arahant. So we're But we're recognizing the qualities of the Buddha after he's done all that purification of the mind that he so wonderfully has laid out for us.
And hopefully we all are hung someday.
Yes. Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namah. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ayaz. Thank you, Sonia.